Well, hello, how are you today? My name is Jeff. I'm so glad you could be here. You know, I saw a film on Riff Tracks the other day from 1980. It was called The Alien Dead. It was directed by the one and only Fred Olen Ray. You know, a lot of people since 1968 have been trying to make Night of the Living Dead inspired films, because let's face it, it's inexpensive and easy, and how could you go wrong? Watch this film and you can find out how wrong it can go. It's bad. It's really bad. Even the director, Fred Olen Ray, said everything about this no-budget movie was awful. And here's the kicker. It stars Buster Crabbe. You know Buster Crabbe, right? He was from the Flash Gordon serials from the 30s and 40s. Or maybe you don't. Those were quite a long time ago. Anyway, this was his last film role. It's really a treat to watch, just the badness of this movie. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on November 3rd, 1990. It's a 1961 horror film called Ring of Terror, directed by Clark E. Paylow and starring George Mathers, Esther Frust, Austin Green, and others. This was the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode in which, during the intro, the bots trick Joel into thinking he has movie sign. Tom has a new haircut, Dr. Forrester creates a life-size operation game, and Joel acts as a teacher in a medical school who performs an autopsy on a vacuum cleaner, parodying a scene from the film. The frightening true story of a college fraternity hazing assignment, and the slithering hand that came forth. Could life have endured therein? Now I have to question the claim that this movie was based on a true story. I do have my doubts. And, as we will see, the hand, as far as I remember, never really slithers. And as far as its name goes, while there is a ring, I don't really think it's a ring of terror. Anyway, that's just me. For those new to the show, while I'm talking about a film that was shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000, I'm more talking about the film itself and not so much about Joel and the bots. So if that's what you came here for, I apologize. I'll start right away by saying I don't like this film. I mean, there are some films that, even though they're shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000, they're still fun to watch on their own, like The Crawling Hand or The Black Scorpion. But this film, there's nothing enjoyable. It's 64 minutes of pain and suffering. Wikipedia says this film is 72 minutes, but the cut I found was only 64 minutes, and that's fine with me. I don't need to see any more. Now I can use my suspension of disbelief to get over the fact that a bunch of actors in their 30s or early 40s are playing medical students. And I can tolerate the way this film constantly and cruelly makes fun of an overweight couple. I can even overlook the horrible dialogue. But what I can't forgive is the fact that this film has no plot, or at least a very thin one at best. It's just weird. See, the film starts out as a horror film, but then somehow becomes a teen comedy, then quickly at the end returns to a horror film. And my apologies to anyone who is a fan of this film, and I'm sure there are a few. In fact, I know there are a few because I read the IMDb user movie reviews. Some people actually gave this film a good review. Now, if you like this movie, that's wonderful. Good for you, but you're wrong. To make matters worse, as far as the making of Ring of Terror, I've got nothing at all. It's one of those films that seems to have been completely forgotten about, or at least no one cares about. And I get the feeling, and I'm only guessing, that the film was made in the mid-1950s and only released in 1961. The main character, according to the film, dies in 1955, so maybe that's when it was made. The intro scene with custodian J.R. Dobson looking for his cat, Puma, seems to have been added on, maybe to get the running time up to over an hour. I don't know, but they do come back at the end, so maybe they were part of the original script. They were probably going for a Twilight Zone thing, but came out with something more like Griswold from Plan 9, and the dialogue is just as inept.
From the simplest to the most elaborate, stand erect on the closed books of the lives of our beloved departed.
Look, when I first started to do these movie reviews, I told myself to always be positive, to try to find the good points of even the most horrible film. And when I started this episode, that's what I set out to do, but I gave up. It beat me. The film beat me. Therefore, I'm going to end this right here and now, because this is just stupid. I can't do this. No, I can't let this film beat me. So without knowing too much about the making of this film, I'm going to look at some of the people involved. Maybe there's something interesting there. The film was directed by Clark L. Paylow. Clark lived from 1918 to 1985, and it looks like he spent most of his film career as a second unit or assistant director. As far as I can tell, this was the only film he ever directed. He started out working on low-budget westerns in the 1940s and moved up to being a production manager on such films as The Conversation from 1974 and Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977. Ring of Terror was written by Louis Simeon and Jerry Zinnamon, and this was their only writing credit. Jerry Zinnamon is also an actor in the film using the name Jerry Zinn. The star of the film was George E. Mathers, who plays Louis B. Moffat. George lived from 1920 to 1997. If this film was made in 1961, George, playing a medical student, would have been 41 years old at the time. He kept working from 1954 to 1980, and for the most part, he usually was uncredited. I often wonder, when an actor like George gets a major role in a low-budget film such as this, are they thinking, or at least hoping, that this is their breakthrough role? For George, not so much. Later in his career, he did visual effects in films like Star Wars in 1977 and Solar Babies in 1986. Austin Green plays Carl. Austin lived from 1907 to 2001. He was basically a TV actor who appeared on many popular shows in the 1950s and 60s. Lomax Study plays Professor Rayburn. Lomax, and I believe that is his real name, lived from 1914 to 2006, and like George Mathers, was mostly a TV actor, but he did the occasional film. Nothing that needs to be mentioned here. Esther Frust plays Betty, and this is about the only thing she ever did, so let's just move on. I think the only other two actors I want to talk about are the two that played Ragdoll and Tiny, the overweight couple, who, sadly, are the point of a lot of comedy. Ragdoll Milford is played by June Smaney. June lived from 1922 to 1993. She died on her birthday. She began her career at age 11 in Little Women in 1933. Now, according to IMDb, she loved to entertain and was loved by anyone who met her. With her mother, they would entertain troops at the Hollywood Canteen. She did a lot of TV work, often cast with her mother in shows like Gunsmoke and The Wild Wild West. Most of her film work was uncredited. And then there's the actor who played Tiny. I can find nothing on Tiny. I don't even know who played the dude. He looks so familiar that I thought he had been in other films, but I guess not. The film doesn't tell us who played him, neither does Wikipedia or IMDb. I would guess he's one of these people, but I can't be sure. Do you know who played Tiny? Let me know. So what is Ring of Terror? Well, we begin with a funeral. I'm assuming the funeral was for Louis B. Moffat? We don't know for sure because we fade to the offices of the school custodian, R.J. Dobson.
Good evening, friends. Let me invite you for a stroll down Graveyard Lane, where beauty and love abide.
See, I'm wondering if this was maybe shot as a pilot for a TV show called Graveyard Lane. Maybe? Again, I can only guess. It's a pretty nice office for a school custodian, don't you think?
Yuma! Yuma! Come to Rhaegar. Where are you? Yuma!
If it isn't clear, Dobson is looking for his cat Puma. That is his cat's name, right? Puma? That brings him to the grave of Louis B. Moffat.
Louis B. Moffat, February 3rd, 1933, November 17, 1955. I feared not.
At least he thinks it's funny. And now, almost 7 minutes into the film, we get to the story. The gang is going to the cafeteria, but Moffat stays behind. Meanwhile, we cut to the girls' dorm, and it seems that most think Moffat is the bravest student at the school.
What do you hear, Alice?
Well, Jerry says he's got nerve that won't quit. My boyfriend Seymour says he likes him.
But his girlfriend Betty senses there's something unexplainable going on in his head.
I always get the feeling that there's a fight going on inside of him. I can't quite explain it to you, but it's like there were two people inside of him, two separate personalities trying to gain control.
But she also thinks he's not afraid of anything. Let's listen to some of the clever and hip dialogue.
Well, you're going to be the slickest chick at that ever-loving hop. What are you doing?
I'm waiting for you to ask me what I'm doing.
Well, the gang have gone down to the cafeteria. Would you like to join them?
I'll pick you up.
Now, that's what I call service. Send Mr. Moffat's car around to the door, James.
Blocks away, remember?
They go out together, and of course, even though it's Betty's car, the man must drive. We learn that he is waiting to see an autopsy. Now, if this wasn't made clear enough, Moffat is a very brave man, but we need proof. So that night, while parked, a snake climbs into the car. Lewis quickly takes care of it. On a side note here, rattlesnakes generally stay away from people. That's the idea of the rattle, right? They make noise to let you know that they are there to keep you away. They don't want to attack unless they have to. And they're ambush predators, which means they stay in one place and wait for the prey to come to them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a herpetologist, but I think that a snake would never climb into a car with the idea of attacking a human being. I'm just saying. But we get it, Moffat's a superhero. Now at the cafeteria, wait, I hear a sax. Why is the sax player resting his horn on his lap? Anyway, we meet Tiny and Ragdoll, and right away we learn they like to eat. Look at all the glasses on the table, and they are ordering 2 more drinks.
All right. Hey, Howard, come here a minute, will you?
What is it, Tiny?
Bring Ragdoll another soda. Make it raspberry, will you? Hey, make it 2.
2 raspberry sodas for the last of the big-time spenders.
And why does the waiter in a school cafeteria have such an attitude? Can't you just do your job without the sarcasm? And yes, we get it, they like food. And when they dance to get a little exercise, it's the big joke of the cafeteria. Look at all the thin people laughing about how silly large people are when they dance. Now, a lot of these young people are hoping to get into a fraternity, and that means hazing. And look, we get the school clown.
Dates way, way back.
Barely Napoli. So what do you got, a paisan?
Wait, we all need to stop laughing or we're going to miss the true horror of Ring of Terror.
Professor Rayburn, may I ask a favor of you?
Why, certainly. What is it?
Well, I understand that you use a student to assist you at your autopsies.
Moffat can't wait for the autopsy, and it just so happens the students have the good fortune of a local death. This is what they were waiting for.
Hurry up, we have to be at the morgue in 15 minutes. Howard, can we use your station wagon?
I'm not sure if this is how it works. I've never been to medical school, but do morgues have huge operating theaters? Anyway, this scene takes forever. I think the makers of this film were trying to show us the humor in these students who can't handle the autopsy. We would have got that in a minute or 2, but this just keeps going. This takes over 6 minutes, about 1/10 of the film. Now this guy has a gold ring, and that seems to be some point of interest to the students. Hey, could this be our Ring of Terror? And so that night, the brave Moffat has a nightmare. Oh, I guess he's not so brave after all. And his creepy friend just stares at him for some reason. And finally, with half the film over, we finally have a plot.
It's the same nightmare I've been having ever since I was a kid. It's got some meaning, I guess, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I've been around too many dead bodies.
But enough with that. The girls are mad at the boys for taking their education seriously.
I don't know how they have the nerve to want to speak to us even after last night.
I'm tired of playing second fiddle to a skeleton.
Really? He's training to be a doctor, Alice. You are dating a medical student. Or maybe he should just forgo his education and the two of you can live on a convenience store clerk's salary. Is that what you want, Alice? This is such a bad script. A friend of theirs is killed, so they go to the funeral home to check out the body. I mean, why not? It's dark, it's scary, but the one candle really lights up the room.
Turn on the lights. It's dark.
Carl, don't panic, Lou. I'll light the candle.
And so, with almost 2/3 of the film past, we finally learn Moffat's mental issue. It's a problem with his mother and his grandfather's dead body in the living room.
When I was 8 years old, my grandfather died, and the coffin was in the living room. The night before the funeral, I begged my mother to leave the light on in my room, and she wouldn't do it. And I cried. And she told me if I didn't stop, my grandfather'd get up and give me a licking. And then she turned out the light and she left me. And I laid there all night in the dark, listening to all the sounds, scared to death that body'd get up and come into my room.
Wow.
And back to the hazing.
Hey, Clark, where have you been? All of the assignments are made except one.
Except Louis Moffat's. We've got a great idea, and it fits him to a T.
It's terrific. Go on, tell him. Listen to this, fellas. It's good.
Well, at the autopsy, Moffat acted as if he'd played around with corpses all of his life.
But before we can get to Moffat's hazing, he and Betty have to make up, right?
First of all, why are you sore?
You don't know?
Well, I imagine it's about leaving you at the dance, isn't it?
You know perfectly well what
I
it is.
think that's a mighty thin reason.
Yes, it is. The writers should have listened to their own script. Now we're getting to the end of the film, finally, but then we have to take a break for a beauty contest. Really? Tiny is one of the judges, and isn't it funny he has to keep eating all the time?
Well, I vote for Miss Milford. Miss Ragdoll Milford.
Who? He means the large one.
I just want to slap both these old dudes with a large wet fish.
He's kidding. He's gotta be. You are kidding, aren't you, young man?
No, sir.
I think this is meant for laughs, but I think it's charming that Tiny finds Ragdoll beautiful. That night at the barbecue, we need to keep hammering on the comedy about these two overweight people. Look at that, they can't even control themselves when a wheelbarrow full of hot dogs gets rolled in. Now, to make a long story short, Tiny, as well as the others, get into the fraternity after completing their assignments. And they're all having so much fun. But we still have Moffat's assignment.
You shall go to Ravenhill Cemetery. Enter the General Mausoleum. In aisle 3, crypt 18, you will find the remains of autopsy John Doe. On his right angular finger, you'll find a gold ring, which you must deliver to the president of the Senior Initiation Committee upon your return to the campus.
Hey, why all the curiosity? Oh, I just wondered if Lou's assignment was as weird as mine. Weird? Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.
And these are medical students, right? Now we need to see Moffat's every move to get to the body. The filmmakers had to get this film up to over an hour, so it literally takes him 6.5 minutes to get there. And now, things are gonna happen. But he gets interrupted by Puma the cat. So now, all he has to do is remove the ring, but the cat goes into some sort of fit. His coat, I think, hooks onto the dead hand, and that scares him to death, I guess? What?
Louis B. Moffat, I feared not. Yet fear dwells within all of us, young and old alike.
Has terrifying fear ever gripped your heart?
Has it? Has it? I think I need to say something good about the film. There's the music. It was done by a fellow named James Carncross. It's effective, scary music, a little repetitive, but it gets the job done. Though I don't know anything about Carncross, so I'll have to move on. I thought the cinematography wasn't bad. It was done by Braden Baker. Braden lived from 1898 to 1973 and was an American cinematographer who started in 1929 and mostly worked in Poverty Row films, usually westerns. He had a few films that may interest the viewers of this show. From Hell It Came from 1957, Space Master X7 from 1958, and Return of the Fly from 1959. He only did one film after this, and it was a film called Taffy and the Jungle Hunter from 1965. You know, I believe in the rights of the artist to express him or herself. In general, I support the artist over the money people. In this case, however, if I was financing the film, I would have told the writers to contact a professional writer just to get their opinion. Maybe they, could have learned something about the 3-act structure, the importance of conflict early in your story, basic plot and character development, and most importantly, fat shaming as humor only goes so far. I don't agree with it, but if you're going to go there, don't overdo it. Now, the cut of this film I watched was 64 minutes, and I wonder if there is a 72-minute version like Wikipedia claims. Not that I want to watch it. But Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed about 61 minutes, and it seems they cut out most of the beauty contest scene, so that's okay. And, if you cut out the bits of the film that aren't necessary for the plot, like the intro scene with the custodian, most of the autopsy, the beauty contest, and all that driving and walking at the end to get to the mortuary, you can get this film down to 44 minutes. Then if you cut out the bits about the ladies bitching about their boyfriends and all the fat shaming, you can get it down to 38 minutes. And on a side note here, I wonder what classes the ladies were taking at the college. And while we're cutting out unnecessary parts of the movie, we can cut out most of the hazing stuff. Not all of it, some is necessary for the plot, but most of it. All that crap that's meant to be comedy, that doesn't belong in a horror film, that stuff, and then we can get it down to 32 minutes. Then, okay, let's just stop there. The point I'm trying to make is, in good writing, every scene, every bit of dialogue should advance the plot and or help develop the characters in some way. This film is essentially a horror film about a college student being scared to death, so over half of what we saw in the movie doesn't really belong there. It's as if they are trying to make a teen comedy college film as well as a horror film, and it just doesn't work. I mean, could you imagine Norman Bates in the middle of Psycho going to a frat party just so the film would have some comedy? It would have been awful. But you get the point. The film is uneven. And it's not just me. Joel and the Bot seems to have thought so as well. So why don't we see a little of the gang and what they had to say during the film?
Huh? Jeez, Joel, he looks old to be a college student.
Let's go to the cafeteria.
Did she say cafeteria?
Wow.
Jeez, I got
I
a
got
ball
some
from football
yeah,
practice.
cafeteria's
It's almost
great.
done.
Icicle Colts. Ooh, that bursitis is really acting up today.
I'm gonna have to take a sweater.
Bob has a problem. Bob wasn't careful, you see. Now he's paying the price.
Meanwhile, at the Dame Edith Evans College for Grown-Up.
Jason.
Kill that guy.
Kill him!
Kill
him!
No! That's horrible. Look at those nails.
It's the old school, where old values are nurtured.
I don't know about you, but that Irene Ryan is fine.
Hello? Echo.
Abracadabra.
Ah! Oh!
Monkey's got a
I'm going to talk to you and you're going to listen.
I'm turning off my hearing aid. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not listening.
Was that your hip, honey?
It's the way you've been acting.
Woodenly.
His Highness craves to sup of yon nectar.
Kill him!
It's a
But I'm not giving up so
What about the
easy.
Ring of Terror? What about the plot, Joel? Am I the only one who cares?
I remember.
Let's see, dear sir, this is our third attempt to reach you by mail. If you do not pay your bill by Thursday, April 20th.
You shall go to Raven.
It's taken 53 minutes to get back to the plot.
You were gone 4.5 hours and all you got is 23 cents?
No.
It must be the recession.
Wah,
So
wah,
what kind of an assignment did you get? I'll tell you.
There's a little bit of
Oh, I hate those darn maple leaves.
Oh, that's it. I finally did it. I finally broke my damn dirty hip.
No one will be admitted during the breathtaking walking scene from Playstar Productions' Ring of Terror.
Cat got your tongue?
I'm Satan. I did it and I'm proud.
So I want to thank everybody for understanding that I had to take last week off. I had a fun time with my siblings and friends. We played some bocce ball, drank beer in the heat, and watched the storms come in as the night progressed. It was a great time. Now I want to throw a special shout out to Tom, who sent me a nice comment, and he took issue with my slurping of my coffee, which I will not do. Point well taken, Tom, and I appreciate you letting me know. It's something I'll watch in the future. Seriously. So next week, I'll be looking at a fun one, the 1967 film Wild Rebels. It's not just a breakfast cereal, and I'm doing this for the kicks, baby. Look, I promise not to be so negative as I was in today's film. This film just rubbed me the wrong way, and I think there'll be a lot more to talk about here. So anyway, thank you all. I appreciate you watching. I truly do. I'll be back next week. Take care. So long. I hope you and yours are healthy and all that stuff. So take care. Bye-bye.